everyone, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new. My name is Jen, and today I'm going to be continuing on my series of videos, which is basically recapping our 2022-23 homeschool year. If you don't already know, I'm currently homeschooling 5 of my 6 kids. My oldest has already graduated and he's getting ready to start college in the fall. As of right now, I have my 2 oldest daughters who are currently in high school. One of them just completed their grade 9 year, and my other daughter completed her grade 11 year. That's what this video will be. I'm going to be talking about both my 9th grader and my 11th grader and all the curriculum that they used. The reason I combine my high schoolers into one video, we have chosen the route once our kids hit grade 9, hit high school grades. We have access to a online program where our kids are able to take all of the necessary high school courses in order for them to get the amount of credits that they need to graduate high school with an official high school diploma for our province. Is this necessary? I've talked about this a little bit before in various videos. No, we have just gone that route. I mean, for various reasons, which is neither here or there for this video, but it really is just a means to an end. It's so that they can have, the actual piece of paper, the actual diploma. But as I say that, we are also able to, like, if we just wanted to full-time, just full-on piece together curriculum for them for, all 4 years of high school, we could totally do that, put together a transcript, and that would still be acceptable to college or university later on. Just in terms of some of the things that my kids were thinking about going into, we just felt like taking this route of doing courses online, it just made more sense. We were first originally looking at just a handful of courses pertaining to certain things that they wanted to pursue, but it kind of just made more sense for our situation, do the whole thing and let them get all of the high school credits. So that being said, they do take a majority of their classes online. And so, they have teachers for all their courses and they submit their work that way through like the portal, and they get feedback, they get it marked, and then they actually do end of the term exams. The good thing about it though is that they get to work at their own pace. So they basically have the entire year they can pick and choose which classes they want to take. They can choose how many at a time they are doing. They can go as fast or as slow as they need to go. So for us, it has worked out. Like anything else, it has its challenges. It is not perfect. We do have some struggles sometimes, but anytime you're doing some sort of it's an online situation, and you're talking about so many courses, so much curriculum. Some of it's going to be a hit and some of it's going to be a miss, but just overall, it is providing what we needed to provide, which is essentially credits, just credits for classes so that our kids can get their high school diploma. So what I'm talking about today is everything else that we supplement here at home. So these are the things that I am hand picking in addition to what they are already doing through their online course. This doesn't feel like extra to them, and a lot of this stuff are things that they've already been doing over the years. Versions of things they've been doing. Things are a little bit more is expected of you in terms of your work. So yes, it does take them a little bit longer. They do spend some time in the evenings if they have to, not every evening, but sometimes they have to work on an assignment or something that, they just want to get finished. So I'm just saying that to say that I don't add these things in just for the sake of adding them in. I look at these things as additions to what they're already doing, but that are somehow going to aid and help them in their other courses. And then some of these things too are just things that are not offered, things that I have always just planned and intended to teach them, to do with them. Again, a lot of these things are just extensions of things they've already been doing throughout the year. So saying all that, let's actually jump into the curriculum. I'm gonna start with my 9th grader and everything that she did this past year. For her math, she did teaching textbooks, and it was the Algebra 1, right? Yes, it was the Algebra 1, which is like the equivalent to grade 9. And she's taking a grade 9 math course through her online schooling, but my kids just have done teaching textbooks for so long. They understand it, the way that it's taught, the way that the work is presented just makes sense to them. And so throughout the high school years, they continue doing it. I mean, honestly, the lessons are not very long. I would say 30 minutes maybe they spend on a lesson, and that's sort of on the long end of things. What I find it does is it actually helps them once they start doing their online math course. Clarifies a lot of things. It just explains things a little bit clearer to them. I wouldn't have them doing it if it was just, you know, extra work. When they get into high school, they kind of treat it as extra practice, working out problems, because then if they have any issues, they can kind of work it out through the teaching textbooks program. And by the time they get to their course that is, you know, being graded and credited and all that kind of stuff, they've figured it out, I guess you could say. What I did is I had her start on her teaching textbooks, Algebra 1, a little bit ahead of, before she added in math as her course. So we picked, you know, a variety of courses, and then alongside that, she was doing her teaching textbooks math. About the halfway point, we add in the online math. And so she's like a step ahead. What that does is it makes it so that the concepts that are being taught to her online, she's kind of already done and like figured it all out. That's what works for us. And so she completed her Algebra 1 for this year. Another thing that she started doing this year as well was Duolingo French. There's an app you can get on your phone, and it just teaches you, you can literally pick any language. Academically speaking, I wouldn't say it's the most thorough course. It probably teaches you, it's more like conversational. But this is not the first year she's done French, so I'm not too worried about it. I'm still looking into Rosetta Stone. We may add in next year, but I haven't decided that yet. But anyway, yeah, she did Duolingo French. She keeps doing it, like she never really finished it. She just continues to do that. And I mean, even in just off time in the summer months, she's doing that. So moving on, we have Apologia, exploring creation with physical science. And this is I brought up the student notebook. I mean, honestly, the teacher notebook is just as well. I think the student notebook is actually bigger, but I mentioned, I think that she was doing this last year. This would be considered, I guess, technically a grade 8 level science. The thing about Apologia is it is very intensive. This is definitely like a full-on year-long core science curriculum. Knowing that she was going to already be doing science online come grade 9, so we did part of this in her grade 8 year. She also had an Abeka Science that she did just on her own independently, and that was also on top of the Good and the Beautiful science units that we did as a group. This was like just another aspect of science for her, but we did this together, me and her. We did not complete it, but that was not really the intention or the goal. I kind of went into it figuring that we wouldn't. And then going into this year, again, we picked it up a little bit, and then I would say about halfway through the year, it kind of tapered off, because at that point, she was doing the online science course, and a lot of it was repetitive, and it was becoming a lot in the sense of the workload of it. So that's sort of an example of me figuring out if something is working or not. And you know, that is what you have to do, I feel like, as an educator, as a homeschooler. You could have all the intentions in the world at the beginning of the year. You have to be willing to kind of be flexible to a certain extent, and not to just push something just for the sake of pushing it. This was an example of just there was no reason for her to be doing essentially the same thing in 2 different ways. So we never got through this entire thing. We got through quite a bit of it. It just felt like it was never ending. When I realized that we weren't even halfway through, it felt like we should be further than we were because it is just so jam-packed. And we did take our time with it, and I only did this with her like twice a week. This is a great curriculum. I highly, highly recommend it, but in a different way. So if you're looking for something that you are going to do with your child, I find that actually sitting there with them and teaching it and going through it very helpful, and probably the way that they're going to get the most out of it. I think for us, and in this particular situation, it kind of had run its course. I do highly recommend this program. All of the Apologia science courses are fantastic and great choices for core science curriculum if you're looking for that. Okay, and then pretty much everything else that she did is language arts related. So you're gonna notice a lot of these are the same things that you've seen in some of my other videos, just because a lot of these we love, and so we just stick with them. So first we have Wordly Wise. This is book 9. She's been doing this for years and years and years. This is basically vocabulary extension course. It just helps students to become better writers, even I would say better public speakers, writing responses, writing short stories, just not being redundant in how they write, and expanding their vocabulary overall. So you're given a list of like 15 to 20 words at the beginning of the week. You have the definitions, you have how to pronounce the word, you have them used in sentences, and you do various activities throughout the week. At this level, I was doing quizzes with her. So my 7th grader, they had different leveled books, but the format was the same. The next Monday, before they would start on their new lesson for the week, I would quiz them on the words that they had worked on, because I wanted to make sure that they actually understood the words. You can actually buy the quiz sheets that go along with this program, and I feel like there's some adults that could take this course and it would really, really help. I mean, things like blandishment, honestly, I don't even know. What is blandishment? That which is intended to coax or persuade, such as flattery and allurement. The agent promised, among other things, to make her star, but the actress was impervious to his blandishments. Do you see what I'm talking about? This is, I think, is the kind of curriculum that is useful in everything that they do academically and beyond. So we love Wordly Wise, and I plan on having her do the book 10 for next year. Moving on to spelling workout, she did level H. This is another one that she's been doing for years and years and years, and the layout is similar to the Wordly Wise. They get a list of spelling words at the beginning of the week, and then they work through different activities spelling the words, and she has a separate notebook where she writes out her spelling words as well every single day, and then she works on that all week. Monday comes the next week, and before she starts on her next set of words, I would quiz her on the previous week's words. And I know that spelling is not necessarily something that maybe you have to do. Well, you don't have to do it. It might seem like something that you wouldn't do into the high school years. I don't necessarily agree. I talked about how all things language arts I feel like are really important. Being successful, writing, speaking in life, not being able to spell is just, I know that we have spell check and all that kind of stuff, but I just feel like being confident in your ability to write and spell, and you know, all the things, grammar, punctuation and everything, is just invaluable. So that is why I continue these things. The lessons are not very long. It takes them maybe 15 minutes. For what you get out of the program, for how much time is spent doing it, I think it's just absolutely worth it. Basically, as far as this goes, I have my kids do. So we'll have to see if she'll be doing this next year or not, because at this point I don't know. Next we have Fix It Grammar, which is another one that I've talked about on and on, that we love here in our family, and I have all my kids go through this entire program. She is on book 4. The story for this book is Mowgli and Shere Khan. Each level is based off of a story, and every single day you are given a sentence or sentences. By the time that the year is done, you've written out the whole story and you've edited it. Coordinating conjunctions, prepositional phrases, clauses, different things like that. And it's your job to go through and edit the sentence. And so they do that, and then we take it up, make any corrections if there are any, and then there's a space at the bottom for them to rewrite the edited sentence properly. There's also bolded words that they have to look up in the dictionary and write out the definitions, so they do that in a separate notebook. And again, this is just great because it's them being able to edit their own work. When they are doing their own assignments and stuff, they can have in their mind all the things that they need to be on the lookout for. I've seen in my son who has graduated and my older daughter who's going into grade 12, just how much this has helped in all of their courses, because again, you can't get away from writing in all of your courses. And that's why I'm saying that I feel so passionate about reinforcing all of the English language arts concepts with my kids for as long as possible. She will definitely be doing this again next year. And then last but not least, we have Writing and Grammar. Surprise, surprise. This is from BJU Press, and you can see here it's level 8. For this one here, she actually did this one last year, or not last year, the year before, her grade 8 year. This is also very, very big. This she was doing in grade 8 alongside The Good and the Beautiful level 7 language arts. So I treated The Good and the Beautiful more as her core curriculum in grade 8, and then this was a supplement on top of that. So I would have her do this 3 times a week. She would just do little sections of it, so she didn't finish it in her grade 8 year. But again, I assumed that would happen because this is, you know, there's enough here to finish in an entire year if you're doing it pretty much every day, which she didn't. So for this year, I just had her continuing on with the rest of it. For this year, I only had her doing it twice a week. So like Mondays and Fridays. It was just an add-on, a supplement to her high school core English course. But this is, you know, what it says. It focuses on writing and grammar, just knowing the different forms of things like lie and lay. Like, what is the difference? When do you use lie and when do you use lay? Or when do you use rise or raise? The student has to work on things like writing an autobiography, or having the child like research a topic and then having them write a persuasive essay on it. You could obviously use this as a core curriculum because there's a lot jam-packed in this book. You know, we'll continue with all the other language arts add-ons and just have her focus on her grade 10 English course online. So now moving on to my 11th graders curriculum for the year. Similar situation, like I said, she's doing the majority of her work online. She did do teaching textbooks, and it was Algebra 2. Algebra 1, and then it's Geometry, and then it's Algebra 2. We did it the exact same way, where she worked on that and then got up to a certain point, and when she kind of felt like she was comfortable with what she was learning and what she was doing and how she was doing in there, then she added in her grade 11 math course online, and she did fantastic. And so yeah, that's what she did for math. And then actually she has been doing Duolingo as well for a couple of years. I've done French with them also, but she did do French on Duolingo for a while. More recently this year, she has been doing like Japanese. I don't know, she just randomly decided that she wanted to learn Japanese. That's what she's been doing. And kind of like my other daughter, she does that during school time, but she also just enjoys doing that on her own. So she'll do that on off hours. Every once in a while I see her doing it even now throughout the summer. Again, it's not the most intensive program, but if you just have a child that's maybe looking to learn a language, Duolingo, you know, is more, I think, accessible for everybody to do. So that's what she's doing. And then we have Fix It Grammar for her as well. This is book 5, and it is Chanticleer was her story. I've already talked about Fix It Grammar in this video, so I'm not gonna go through it again. You know what it's all about. The last time I checked, there was still another level. There might even be another couple of levels. If there is, I plan on having her continue doing it next year. She'll be going into grade 12. And then moving on to Wordly Wise for her. This is Wordly Wise book 11. Again, she has been doing it pretty much since the start. Okay, I will say, I don't start my kids on Wordly Wise. Essentially, you could start them like kindergarten or grade 1. I don't do that. I would say probably more like grade 4 or 5 is when I introduce it. And then from then on, they do it right up until high school. And this does go up to grade 12. So she has one more book left to do next year. But yeah, Wordly Wise, same concept, same everything. I feel like she's like me in that way, and she finds all these language arts things interesting, and she does like to write and stuff, so you know, I feel like it's extra applicable to her. So anyway, yeah, Wordly Wise level 11, and she'll be moving on to the final one next year. Speaking of Apologia science, we have Exploring Creation with Biology. If I didn't mention, by the way, if you don't know, this is a biblically based science curriculum. Actually, it is a biblically based curriculum in total, so they make all kinds of curriculum. We love Apologia science, like I said, and she actually did this. This was kind of similar to my 9th grader, where we actually did this last year. I worked on this with her. We didn't finish it. It's just so massive and intense, and we don't do science every single day. We had also the microscope, so we were doing stuff with that as well. And yeah, just with things like science, I feel like it takes us long because we pause so much to talk about stuff, and I'm fine with that. I encourage that. I want to be able to have discussions with them about things, and so more times than not, I do not get through as much as I wanted to when I sit down to do lessons with them. So there's a lot of like carryover. I just go into it anticipating that, and I'm fine with that. So, you know, we did some of this last year, and then we did some more of it this year. And I'll be honest with you, we still haven't finished the book. On top of this, she has been doing science through her online courses. So that is why, you know, she was getting enough from here that was different than what she was learning, because the online courses that they take, it's a secular program. We still look through the things that they are learning and how it's presented. And I feel like by the time they get to high school, I'm just gonna kind of throw this in there because, you know, we are a Christian family, and I do base a lot of what we learn, all of what we learn is coming from a biblical world view. That being said, it doesn't mean that every single subject that I do with my children have to have an element of the Bible in it necessarily, but that is the view that we have. And so obviously when it comes to things like science, it can be tricky because, you know, there's a lot of varying views and opposing views. I feel like once they get to high school, because of how much time I've invested in them and all the things that we've been able to discuss and like talk out, they have such a firm foundation in what we believe and how we see the world. Science and having a biblical worldview can go hand in hand. It doesn't have to be mutually exclusive. You don't have to let it become that. Of course, there are things that we just reject, but I think there is a lot of validity to what is being taught. We're not talking about a 6-year-old, and they're still very impressionable, and you're still laying the foundation of their faith. That's why I'm okay with the fact that they are taking, secular I guess, courses. I'm not worried about it at this point, but anyway, that's why I felt like this was still a good program to go through with her, because there is so much added value, additional information that you're not going to get out of a secular science course. So if you're looking for something like that, then this gets a 2 thumbs up from me. And then for history, I continued on with her the volume 4 of Story of the World. We love Story of the World. It's essentially the only history program we've really ever done, so I can't really speak on any of the other ones. It was one of those things where I was like, why fix something that ain't broken, you know? We had started this last year. It's like a common theme, but this is again another one of those things where we're not doing it every day. We would break it up over 2 days, and then the third day we would do review and fill out any activity sheets or worksheets that go along with that chapter, and then a test at the end of the, or a quiz, it's really a quiz at the end of the week. So we just took our time, but worked on this, finished this up this year, and yeah, we just, like I said, we love Story of the World. And speaking of a biblical world view, that's sort of what this entire series is about. This one specifically talks about what it means to be fearfully and wonderfully made in the image of a loving God. Through engaging stories and activities, students will begin to develop a healthy biblical self-image and sense of God given purpose that will last a lifetime. I did this with my oldest son as well, but we would go through this together. I would read the story, I would read the lesson, biblical truths, you know, what does the Bible say about XYZ? Why is it important? You know, how does that apply to us and how we view God, how we view the world, how we view others, how we view ourselves. I know there's a book 3 of this. I think that's where it ends, and I'm hoping to get that and to finish that off with her for her grade 12 year. So to kind of end off my high schoolers curriculum, I saved this one for last because this was something that I did with just my 2 high schoolers, both of my daughters, and it's the introduction to logic, and I loved it. I couldn't recommend this more. This is by Master Books. I'll just read what the back says. It says, logic is the study of the principles of correct reasoning. That is its definition. To be logical is to think rightly and to draw reasonable conclusions from the available information. And in a Christian worldview, we can answer these questions because we know that God determines the correct way to reason. He is the standard for all truth claims. In this book, you will learn about logic and the Christian worldview, the biblical basis for the laws of logic, if faith is contrary to reason, informal logical fallacies, and more. I may have enjoyed this more than the kids. I absolutely loved doing this with my daughters. It focused a lot on where do we get logic from? Like, how do we determine what is right and wrong? How do we figure out what is the standard for what is logical and illogical? And most importantly, how does the Bible fit into that? Talking about how, you know, God is the ultimate truth. And so if God is the ultimate truth, then anything that is the opposite of him or what he says is a lie. And it is the standard. It is the ultimate standard. And how as humans and as time goes by, we can have versions of what's true and not, especially nowadays. It's like everybody wants to live in their own personal truth. But it's such a scary spiral that is just so out of control and can really just, well, it already is, I feel like, but once you hit that point where everybody is right and everything is true, I feel like that's where the real trouble is. And so I just, especially doing this with my teenagers, I think was just so important. Really have them see a clear view, not just like, oh, this is what we believe, but this is why we believe what we believe. And this is why it makes sense in a logical way. I highly, highly recommend this. It was a definite success. All right, so there you go. All in all, they both had a great year. You know, my 11th grader, she's kind of in the swing of things at this point. You know, she's kind of been in the high school groove long enough that she's very good at managing her time. handing things in and all that kind of stuff. And then I have my 9th grader. You know, it's regardless of whether you are homeschooling or doing online school or going to a traditional school, it's still a big jump going from grade 8 to grade 9. Like anything else, there was a little bit of a learning curve and kind of realizing what was expected of her and the workload and everything, but I think we've ironed out most of the things. Excited to see how she does next year going into grade 10. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope that it was helpful to you in some way. If you have any questions, feel free to ask me in the comments. Follow me on Instagram if you want to see what we're up to throughout the summer months, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.